How's everybody doing? Pretty good still? Checking in? I have to check in on you. You sat through a couple. So I'm making sure you're okay. This one will not disappoint. Okay, so this panel is led by Grand Circus. So the tech industry is waiting for you. The panel will be moderated by Selena. Um, okay, let me back up. I'm sorry. All right, so when we talk about mobility and the future of transportation, we are really talking about the tech industry. Grand Circus is a company that wants to help talented professionals like yourselves gain the skills you need to be a part of the mobility revolution. Join me in welcoming from Grand Circus, Selena.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Selena Mancina. I am the VP of Operations at Grand Circus. Our headquarters is located right here in Detroit, and we also have a location in Grand Rapids across the state. So I'm going to welcome our other panelists over, and we're going to have a seat and have a little discussion about the tech industry here in Michigan, in Detroit, how the auto industry affects that, and then we're going to hear from some of our alumni on what they're doing now. So I'm going to have everyone come on up. You're at the end. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for being here. So I'm going to do a quick introduction of who we have with us, and then I'll let Damien here give a quick introduction of Grand Circus and a little bit about our history. So with us today we have Gabby. Gabby took a program with us in 2017, so she's one of our Bootcamp alumni. She's currently a technical software support analyst at a company locally in Detroit, and she previously worked at Ford on production. We also have Ben, who is an alumni of one of our Java boot camps, actually just graduated in December and starts on Tuesday at Ford as a software engineer, so he's super excited about that. And then we also have Damien Rocky here, who is our CEO and co-founder. So I'm going to start with Damien. I'm going to ask, tell us just a little bit about Grand Circus, our background, and maybe a little bit about the state of the tech industry in Detroit.
Sure. Well, hi everybody. Welcome. How many people here are here for the job fair versus just wandering? Are you guys like looking for work? Okay, all one of you. Awesome. I'll talk to you. The rest of you can just, So, so Grand Circus, we're about 6 years old, and what we are essentially is a school that helps people that are interested in transitioning into a tech career. And so the way it works is people come to us, they spend 12 weeks with us in programs we call coding boot camps, which are full-time. They run for, as I mentioned, 12 weeks, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We have an after-hours option as well. And we take people from an interest in technology all the way up to a job. What's great about our programs is that we hear a lot of people coming back to us who don't want to go back to school for 4 years. They don't want to incur a bunch of extra student debt. So it's a really accessible way to get into the industry. In terms of, just to give you a bit of a sense of us and what we do, we've been doing this, I mentioned, for 6 years. We've trained, at last count, it changes all the time, obviously. We're around 1,500 students have graduated from our classes. They're working at almost 300 companies across Michigan. And after the 12 weeks, we're tracking at around 90% get a job within a few months, in a tech role. So it's a model that's been very effective, and that's what we do.
Awesome. So moving over to some of our alumni, Gabby, will you tell us a little bit about what you did before deciding to take the boot camp?
So before deciding to take the boot camp, I used to work at Ford Motor Company at the Wayne stamping plant, in which I was assembling the vehicles before they came off the line. So that's what I did on a daily basis, and I also worked the night shift. So that was what I was doing on a consistent basis. And then I had an aha moment, Grand Circus. So once I decided I had the opportunity for Grand Circus, it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I went to school during the day, and I worked at night. And then I realized, I said, okay, I'm doing way too much. I need to, focus more on school. So I focused on both, finished the boot camp, and then I got another opportunity for the job that I'm in now.
Awesome. So Ben, what about you? What did you do before deciding to take the boot camp?
Before I was at Grand Circus, I worked at a company that was an international freight forwarder. So I sat at a desk all day and called people overseas and told them to load up containers and put freight on planes. was interesting. At the end of the day, I could tell there was a ceiling, that I wasn't going to really excel in that company. And I always kind of had my ear to the ground about Grand Circus, and when an opportunity opened up, I had an aha moment, and I was like, I need to take this opportunity.
That's awesome. So you're about to start as a software engineer at Ford on Tuesday. So what will you be doing in that role?
So I'm going to be working in Java, doing basically work for their global data insights and analytics. More or less, I'm going to be helping them to crunch data and find ads to target their customers and stuff like that. Right now, you can tell I don't really know exactly what the title's going to entail, but it's going to be in Java. What I can tell through the pre-engagement training is that there's going to be quite a bit of pair programming, quite a bit of when I say agile development, we're going to be working together in a team with senior developers. So this is going to provide me an opportunity where I can learn really quickly, just by having really, really great programmers around me, helping me with day-to-day tasks and stuff like that as we work together to achieve the department's goals.
Cool. So Damien, since you've been with Grand Circus since the beginning, how have you seen what we're doing at Grand Circus tied together with the auto industry? I know we've obviously had quite a few students come from the auto industry and quite a few students go into the auto industry as developers, but how have you seen those things kind of come together?
Good question. I mean, we are at the auto show. So I think the thing that's happened at a really high level in Detroit is we've seen a ton of growth in tech-related jobs. And a lot of that is actually getting driven by auto. So just to give you a sense of that growth, Detroit, in a recent survey in Forbes, was the 9th fastest growing economy in the country when it comes to tech job growth. So lots of growth. And really what's driving it is at the big end of town, the big three and the sort of tier one suppliers, there's actually a lot of code that's written into the average car. So I read recently the F-150, recent model has 150 million lines of code in it. So it's more than an aeroplane. I mean, it's incredible, and that's really going to accelerate as we move more towards autonomous technology. And in fact, you see car companies actually describe themselves as mobility businesses, rather than being sort of traditional manufacturers of cars. So that's one driver, and that's one area we've seen the auto industry and tech kind of come together. I think the other side to it, really in smaller companies, startups, if you like, and this whole room is really dedicated to those sorts of businesses. Mm-hmm. We're seeing a lot of innovation around auto-related technology in Detroit. There's a really interesting program in Detroit called TechStars Mobility. It's actually just rebranded, but it's all about taking ideas that affect the mobility sector broadly, which includes automotive, but is much bigger than that, and helping those companies or those ideas incubate and build businesses for tomorrow. So we're seeing that happen across the sector, and it's really been a driver of growth.
Awesome. So moving over to during the boot camp, Gabby, can you tell me a little bit about your experience when you were at Grand Circus? You mentioned you were there full time, so Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. It's a big commitment.
Yes.
So what was your experience like?
So my experience, especially in the beginning, one thing they encouraged you, it really didn't matter what your background was. When you came, they gave you a lot of soft skills, letting you know basically the type of environments you're going to produce or the type of environments you'll be in this job market. Also, we had breakers where we went and we did activities, just to get us off the stressful moment of work and then going back to work. But for the most part, I would say my best experience was that even if you had a different background, everyone worked together, which is a very common and agile environments that you're going to be in software engineering, because everybody is coming from may have different strong points, but you're working together to get this project done. So that's what I experienced in boot camp. And then just learning new skills. You meet new people, different backgrounds, and that's how it is diverse in different job markets. So it gives you a lot of the soft skills of diversity, learning agile environments, and also having an open mindset. And that's what they speak about, is having an open mindset.
So you sparked two thoughts in my mind. So I'm going to come back to you, Ben, on your experience. But Damien, can you talk a little bit about the backgrounds that our students come with? Because I think that's an important point. Is some people think boot camp, I have to know how to code, or I have to have maybe some experience. But a lot of our students come with zero or very little experience. So what type of backgrounds do we normally see coming into boot camp?
Well, there isn't really a normal, and that's what's great about our program. So, I often get asked, like, do I need to have a do I need to be really good at math, or do I need a background in computers? We've seen people come out of computer science programs, but you don't have to do that. As it turns out, what we find is really important is, firstly, you've got to really be passionate about the idea of working in tech, right? I mean, like anything, unless you really like or you enjoy what you're doing, it ends up being a grind, if you're not interested in it. And I'd say beyond that, what we've found, sort of a predictor of people that do really well in learning these new skills is, firstly, being curious or being a sort of a lifelong learner, because these technologies change so rapidly. You are going to always be learning, and that's just a reality of this sector. And then the other thing which I think is really important is that if you're sort of a natural problem solver, and by that I mean somebody who likes to actually tackle problems, doesn't get discouraged if you hit barriers, or if you don't get the answer straight away. And so they're the things that we look for versus having a particular background or skill set. Mm-hmm. And if you have that, we kind of take care of the rest, really. I mean,
yes.
as these guys have kind of demonstrated, the backgrounds that people come into Grand Circus with are very diverse and varied.
Yeah. So getting back to you, Ben, your experience, what was it like? Because you just graduated recently, so it's fresh.
I really enjoyed it. To start with some of the stuff Damien and Gabrielle have said, it really pushes you out of your comfort zone and kind of teaches you to be resourceful in a way that I really enjoyed and felt is really beneficial right now. If I just learned, the language on Code Academy right now, I'd be pretty scared heading into a new job where I'd actually have to code in it. I had a really talented and patient teacher, but there was a lot of times when she would say, you got to figure it out yourself. I would go home with labs, and it would be like, I need to go on Google or Stack Overflow and kind of do the research, figure out what's going on, and use my problem-solving skills that maybe I hadn't used in years. Maybe I hadn't really, thought logic problems through like this, since college. So it really did a good job pushing me out of my comfort zone, making me more willing to learn. I came in with a mindset where I was really dead set on it and worked really hard. And I noticed that the harder I wanted to work, there was always opportunities that my teachers and my classmates would be happy to help me with. Grand Circus really does provide openings for anyone who wants to move forward with this career path.
Awesome. Well, thank you. So, Gabby, you mentioned a little bit about the soft skills that we teach during boot camps.
Yes.
One thing that we do teach during the first week of all of our programs is imposter syndrome. And if you've never heard of imposter syndrome, it's essentially the feeling that you're not good enough or you can't hold your own in a room of individuals. So we make sure that our students that are coming into boot camp that have never coded before or maybe never worked in a tech job do have the right to be there. So, Gabby, can you talk a little bit about maybe your experience with imposter syndrome? Did you ever feel that way, and maybe how you overcame it?
So I experienced imposter syndrome probably, they say it was like a peak about the 4th or 5th week of school. And it's that time where you get there and you're like, okay, why am I here? Why am I doing this? I don't know this. Who am I? I don't know who I am right now. And once you start to groom yourself, and then after, because I think like the 5th week of school is when they started with our resume management and helping us build our resume. And I put my resume out there and I start getting calls, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I do know this. They're calling for me. This is not just what, I think I know. So it helped gave you a lot of confidence to build you up to where you were gonna go. And you've seen, as I grew up, my mom gave me that book, Oh, the Places You Will Go. It does remind you of the different things. You'll go through different humps and you'll go through different things in life, but you'll always end up on top if you keep going. So graduating from Grand Circus and then, going through different interviews and going through different jobs helps you overcome imposter syndrome, as well as you have your classmates, our mentors at Grand Circus, because we're talking with them on Slack all the time. Mm-hmm. So imposter syndrome does decline, but it does come back and forth.
Yeah. Can I add to that just real quick? Because
yeah.
it's a really important point, and everybody has it. Mm-hmm. Is this idea of imposter syndrome. Have you guys heard of that expression before? The one thing I will say, and Ben kind of alluded to it, we like to strike that balance between having people push themselves on their own and figure it out, but also be sort of a backstop to help people out, because you kind of have to find that balance. The one thing I will say is that the people that start our class generally finish, right? So I think we graduate 97% of people that start get all the way through. And so you kind of have to remind people of that.
Yes.
We actually don't accept everybody that applies. So if you get through our application process, your chances of getting all the way through, even though you might ride those humps, as Gabby mentioned,
Yes.
are pretty good. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It's not entirely like, sink or swim.
Of course, thanks for adding that in. So to kind of round us out, what advice would you give to someone thinking about a career in technology, maybe dabbling with the idea of taking a boot camp at Grand Circus? What advice would you give them? And Ben, we'll start with you.
I would say go online and start, testing the waters. Go on Code Academy. EDX has a free course for their CS 100. Do stuff like that and kind of see how you like it. If you do decide this is your career path, I think that Grand Circus is one of the better ways to go. I couldn't afford to go back to school and take a CS degree. And just talking with my friends who do have CS degrees, sometimes they say, well, like, oh, you're coding, and we didn't do all that much coding in my 4 years. So I really think that Grand Circus offers something that is different and very beneficial if this is the course you want.
Awesome. How about you, Gabby?
I personally would say go for it. First of all, if you're interested and you don't really know what your niche is, just research some programming languages to see which one, because you have front end and you have back end. So to see what kind of mindset you may have, research those. And then I will also say it's a great career change, because if you are in a field that you really don't like or you want to switch it up, it's a good field to get into because there's always growth. Technology is always changing. It's always going to be around. So it's a good way to do a career change and then also not only have it knowledgeable, but it's profitable once you get into it. So
Awesome. Thank you. Damien, any advice?
Yeah, I mean, they're both really great suggestions. We see a lot of people Code Academy is one example of a free resource. You can go online and learn. The one thing I would suggest you do in addition to that, because it's about figuring out whether you like to code as well as figuring out if you like Grand Circus. We have a number of classes that expose people to writing their first line of code just to see if it's for them. So I think every week pretty much we have introduction to coding, which are 3 hours long. They're completely free. And you can come down to Grand Circus, experience Grand Circus, as I mentioned, which is important, because if it's not a good fit for you, then that's not going to work. And so I'd say come down or register for a class, come down, try for 3 hours, see if you like it. And if you do, there are other classes that we can kind of step you through to get you ready for a boot camp if you're not ready yet, as well as talking to our staff, because there's a lot of questions I'm sure you guys have that are pretty difficult to answer on your own.
Yeah.
And we're there TAing too, so we'll be there to help at the coding class.
Yeah, all of our instructors and TAs are always alumni, so you can ask lots of questions about their experience, what they're doing now. And those free workshops are every Tuesday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. At our location downtown. We also do them in Grand Rapids at our campus there. And it's a good way just to get your feet wet. You don't have to download anything on your laptop. You just need access to Google Chrome. And it's a really great way to kind of figure out if Grand Circus is a fit for you, but also if coding is a fit for you.
Hey, Selena, can I jump in again?
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep jumping in on you.
It's okay.
So if you can't wait to get home and look online and start doing your research, we've actually got a booth all the way over in the corner of this building. There's an area where there's a bunch of educators that have set up stands. So we have a number of our team that are over there. In fact, some people who've taken our classes, who are now members of the Grand Circus team, who can answer any questions as well if you have any, will help as well, but
yeah,
it's another receipt.
UA27. It's in the back corner. So if you just walk straight back, you can't miss us. But we'll be here for a few minutes after to chat with you if you have any questions. But you can always check us out on our website, just grandcircus.co. All the information is always on there. So thank you so much for joining us. If you have any other questions, like I said, we'll be here for a few minutes, but we'll be here all day at the booth. So thanks so much for coming.